This is USA News Hub, the heart of American sports. Subscribe for power, passion, and champions. Coco Gauff didn't just win another match at the Australian Open. She passed on wisdom. After battling her way into the fourth round in Melbourne, the two-time Grand Slam champion offered some of the most honest advice we've heard in tennis, and it wasn't directed at veterans. T was for the future, 19-year-old Victoria Mboko, 18-year-old Iva Jovic, and what Gauff said could shape their careers for years to come. United States. Coco Gauff's Australian Open momentum continues. Coco Gauff's 2026 Australian Open campaign continues to gather momentum, both on the scoreboard and beyond it. The 21-year-old American booked her place in the fourth round at Melbourne Park with a composed and mature comeback win over fellow American Hailey Baptiste, prevailing 3-6, 6-0, 6-3. Match tested her patience. T tested her discipline. And it tested her ability to reset, something Gauff now does better than almost anyone her age on the WTA Tour. Tennis. A solid start down under. Before facing Baptiste, Gauff's path through the opening rounds had been smooth. She dismantled Kamila Rakimova in straight sets. She followed it up with another convincing straight-set win over Olga Danilovic. No drama. No panic. No dropped sets. That kind of efficiency is the mark of a seasoned contender, not someone just turning 21. Brain experience kicks in against Baptiste. Against Baptiste, things didn't start perfectly. Gauff lost the opening set 3-6, struggling initially to find her rhythm as Baptiste played fearless tennis. But once again, Gauff showed why she's a two-time major winner. She adjusted. She raised her intensity. She flipped the momentum completely. The second set was a shutout. The third set was controlled, professional, and decisive. Chart increasing. Fourth round. Again. With the win, Gauff reached the fourth round of the Australian Open, an achievement she's now made look routine. But context matters. She is still just 21 years old, and she's already a veteran of deep Grand Slam runs. Seedling. A tournament defined by youth. The 2026 Australian Open has quickly turned into a showcase of the next generation. Young players are no longer just promising. They're competing, they're winning, they're pushing established stars off the court. Among them, Victoria Mboko, 19, and Iva Jovic, 18, both reached the fourth round in Melbourne, a massive milestone at such early stages of their careers. Eyes. Gauff watching the next wave. Coco Gauff has been there. She understands what it feels like to be young, fearless, and relatively unknown on the Grand Slam stage. And after beating Baptiste, she was asked about Mboko and Jovic, two players many fans are seeing for the first time. Gauff didn't hesitate to offer perspective, and her advice was strikingly honest. Studio microphone. Coco Gauff on Iva Jovic and Victoria Mboko. Speaking in her post-match press conference, Gauff began by acknowledging the talent around her. Speaking head. Gauff said, "I've never played Iva yet. Obviously, watching all of them play, I think they're all very talented players. No hype. No exaggeration. Just recognition. Light bulb. Belief will take you really far." But then Gauff touched on what she believes truly separates rising stars from the rest. Belief. "I think they just have the belief that they can be here with the top dogs, and I think that's kind of the mentality I had when I was younger. Just that belief, and belief will take you really far." That sentence alone speaks volumes. Brain. The power of self-belief in tennis. Tennis is a lonely sport. No teammates. No timeouts. No safety net. If you don't believe you belong on the court, the opponent will sense it instantly. And Coco Gauff knows this better than anyone. When she burst onto the scene as a teenager, belief carried her further than rankings ever could. Hourglass. Not done. Why the early years feel easier. Gauff then dropped one of the most insightful observations young players rarely hear early enough. "I think a couple of your first years on tour are always easiest, just because there is no pressure, no points to defend. That's something fans don't always understand. Early success feels freer. You're playing with house money. Bar chart. No pressure. No expectations. Early on, a no ranking defense. A no expectations from media. A no tactical scouting reports. Opponents don't know your tendencies. They haven't studied your patterns. You're unpredictable. And that's a massive advantage." Magnifying glass. Tilted left. Scouting-wise, there's not much out there. Gauff expanded on this idea further. Also, like scouting-wise, there are not many matches for other players to call upon. In simple terms, the tour hasn't figured you out yet, and that gives young players freedom. The shift that comes with success. But then comes the hard part. Success changes everything. Opponents prepare more. Media attention increases. Expectations rise. And suddenly, belief gets tested. Gauff looks inward. Here's where Gauff's advice becomes deeply personal. She didn't just talk about Mboko and Jovic. She talked about herself. But yeah, I thought that was a mentality I had, and then honestly this year I was like, I need to get back to that. That honesty is rare, a two-time Grand Slam champion admitting she had to relearn belief. Pushpin belief becomes more factual. Then came the most powerful part of her message. Because it's actually more factual now than when I was 15 or 16 years old. Think about that. At 15, belief was hope. At 21, belief is supported by results. Brain a shift from dreaming to knowing. When Gauff was younger, belief meant dreaming of winning big matches. Now, she knows she can. And yet, maintaining that mindset still takes work. Graduation cap advice that goes beyond tennis. Gauff wrapped her advice with something every athlete, and honestly, every person, can use. If I had any advice to give anyone, just keep that mentality throughout your whole career. Because as you get older, it should be more factual than maybe when you first started. That's not just tennis advice, that's life advice. Glowing star. Why this advice matters for Mboko and Jovic. Victoria Mboko and Iva Jovic are entering a crucial phase. Right now, they're fearless. They're relatively unknown. They're playing loose, but eventually, the tour will adjust. And that's where belief matters most. DNA Gauff as a bridge between generations. Coco Gauff stands in a unique place. She's young enough to relate to Mboko and Jovic, but experienced enough to warn them about what's coming. That makes her voice powerful. United States a leader without trying to be one. What's interesting? Gauff never presents herself as a mentor. She doesn't talk down. She doesn't preach. She simply shares what she's learned, and young players listen. Chart increasing. Australian Open 2026. A turning point. This Australian Open already feels like a shift. The next generation isn't waiting anymore, they're arriving. And Coco Gauff is showing them how to stay. Trophy. Gauff's own title pursuit continues. Amid all of this reflection, let's not forget why Gauff is in Melbourne. She's chasing her third Grand Slam title, she's playing confident tennis, she's managing adversity, and she's doing it with perspective. Brain maturity beyond her years. At 21, 2 Grand Slam titles. Multiple deep slam runs. Leadership moments on court. For more stories from the Australian Open, player insights, and the future of tennis, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Because Coco Gauff's journey, it's still being written. Make sure you subscribe to USA News Hub United States. More breaking news. More powerful stories. More champions. Coming your way. See you soon.